Where's the addictiveness and where is the juice? Because I don't see any. What am I even reading right now? Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby and today we're going to be doing a reading vlog. I'm filming this intro after the reading vlog is already over, and let me tell you, it's a bit of a hot mess and I apologize. I don't think that this vlog is like up to my usual standards for myself. June has been such a crazy month with like working in the bookstore, and I feel like because I've been adjusting to a new schedule and like doing a lot of training in the bookstore, I feel like I've worked myself into a little bit of a reading slump. And that's for a few different reasons, but basically I was filming this reading vlog for almost the entirety of June. Like this vlog went on for weeks. And even though I was kind of feeling like I was in a reading slump, I just really wanted to get to some of the, horror books that have been on my TBR, some thriller arcs that I've been really excited to read, as well as some like weird books. So in this reading vlog, you will see me read Headlights by Leede. This one actually just went on sale in the month of June, and this has been one that I've been really excited to read because the synopsis of this book pitches it as perfect for fans of The Shining and Longlegs, which that just sounds like a really intriguing combination of things. I also decided to finally read this book called Open Wide, and this is one that I've been so curious about for a long time. I think this one actually just published last year, but I've heard this one being described as one of those like weird girl books, and that's just been something I've been really in the mood to read recently. My library had the audiobook available as well as the ebook for my Kindle, so I ended up reading this one in this vlog. And then, like I mentioned, I've been dying to get around to some of my thriller arcs because they have been piling up recently. And so in this video, you will see me read Pretty Dead Things by Kelsey Cox. This one is actually a thriller arc that I have, and it's coming out in July. And this is one that I've been very excited to read because this is from the same author as Party of Liars, which is a thriller that I read last year that really surprised me. I gave it 5 stars, which is pretty rare for me these days when it comes to thrillers. And this one did sound like it would have a kind of similar premise to Party of Liars because this one is also taking place in a small town in Texas, and there's like this pageant, somebody dies. And then the last book you'll see me read in this video is Hot Girl Murder Club by Ashley Winstead, and this one's another thriller arc that's also going on sale in July. This is another one that I've been really excited about, but also kind of nervous to read because I feel like Ashley Winstead has been such a hit or miss author for me over the years. I absolutely loved In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. It's like one of my favorite thrillers ever, and I just thought this one sounded especially fun because I love the idea of like a hot girl murder club, and I love that this one is taking place in Los Angeles, and we're following this woman who's a pop star, and it says that she goes from mid-tier pop star to the world's most famous alleged murderer. So it just sounds like it could be a fun, silly time. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading in today's reading vlog. Let me send you back to early June when I started on this reading vlog. Hello, good afternoon. I am here with a reading update. It's been kind of a busy last couple of days. I mean, yesterday I ended up working a shift in the bookstore from 9 to 4. So it was about a 7-hour training shift, which is one of the longest that I've had so far. But it ended up being a really great day. And then this morning I had a really early staff meeting that I had to go to that was at 8 a.m. I've been awake since 7 a.m. for 2 days in a row, and like I am not a morning person. So I've been struggling with the early days, but luckily after today I don't have another early day for a while. And I'm here with a reading update because I actually just finished reading Headlights. I would have updated you on this sooner, but I actually started listening to this one on audio like 2 days ago, and I've just kind of been like listening to this one whenever I have time. And then this morning after my meeting, I ended up coming down to this coffee shop and just sitting in there for a few hours, and I finished the last 200 pages of this. And I wish I was coming at you with a better update because I don't think I like this book very much. I think I'm probably gonna give this like 2 stars. And I know you're probably wondering, like, if I wasn't enjoying it, then like why didn't I just DNF it? Which, like, looking back on it now, like I definitely should have just DNF'd this. I just kept thinking, this book on paper, like the premise of this book, it sounds like it would be the perfect book for me. And I don't even know how to really explain to you like why I didn't really like it or like why it didn't work for me, because the premise for this book is so cool, and like that's part of the reason why I picked it up in the first place. We're following this guy named Daniel, or Danny, and he's basically like a special agent. He works with the FBI, and he's actually working on his last day with the FBI when he ends up getting a phone call that brings him back to Denver. And the idea of this is so creepy, right? Because it says, once again, seemingly innocent people are waking up on the side of the highway with no memory of how they got there, wearing the skin of victims they've allegedly never met. They each share one haunting detail: a strand of a stranger's hair is tied around their tongue. Like, how creepy and weird of a setup is that? Like, I love that. That sounds like some freaky, like, serial killer type of shit that I would be so into. It's also one of those stories about how, like, now that Daniel's, like, coming back to the place where he left behind, he's, like, learning secrets about himself and his family and, like, uncovering all these truths. And on the back of this, the description does say perfect for fans of The Shining and Longlegs. So I was like, okay, like, this sounds like it could be the perfect book for me. And I was so convinced that it would be, even though, like, at the start of this book, I was just kind of feeling, like, meh about the writing style. Like, in the first 100 pages, I was just kind of, like, waiting for the story to grip me. I don't know if it's, like, this author's writing style specifically that just doesn't really work for me, but, like, I just never feel that connected to the characters. I mean, granted, this is only the second book that I've read from this author. I thought Mayfly was also just okay, even though I know that that's, like, the most popular book from this author. But, like, I really don't know if this author's writing is for me, because it took me so long to even get a little bit invested in this story. I actually didn't even get invested in this book until maybe, like, over the halfway point, and, like, maybe even a little bit after that. I found the beginning of this to be so freaking slow. Like, I actually did consider DNFing this a few times, but I kept deciding to, like, push through out of curiosity to see where the story went. The second half of this book just started to get very strange. I mean, like, that last third of it especially, like, it started to feel a little bit silly to me. And also, like, there was a romance storyline that kind of came into it at the end, and, like, I really didn't care for the romance, which is crazy to say because, like, typically I would love the combination of romance and horror, but I think it's because I didn't necessarily care that much about these characters. Like, I just couldn't get invested in the romance. Like, I did not care. And there was a lot of romance, by the way. Like, I was like, wow, like, where did this come from? There was also a lot of repetition in the writing. I was, like, dying when I saw my friend Jan's Goodreads review, because in her Goodreads review, she was like, what is voom? And I was like, no, literally, like, the amount of times that this author uses, like, voom to, like, describe, like, an action moment in the scene, that word is used so much, and it just kind of got annoying after a while. I was like, okay, like, we get it, like, something's happening. I also just think a lot of the suspense, you know, like, leading up into that final third of the book, like, it just kind of felt, kind of boring, like, anticlimactic. Like, I just did not care about this nearly as much as I wanted to, and it was starting to feel a little bit silly and, like, even ridiculous towards the end. And not only did this story feel, like, perfect for fans of Stephen King and, like, The Shining, but it was almost, like, so inspired by those things that it was kind of like, what the heck? Like, I was confused. I feel like there's a big difference to me between, like, being inspired by a book, then what this does, in my opinion, it's almost like mimicking it, or it's, like, a little bit too close to the original material in some ways, that it doesn't feel as original. I think if you've read this book, then you would know what I'm talking about specifically, and, like, I don't want to get too into spoilery things, but, like, it just felt very on the nose, like, this is meant for fans of Stephen King. And again, I know that's, like, weird for me to complain about, because you would think, as somebody who's, like, a huge fan of The Shining, and typically Stephen King in general, that I would really appreciate that, but I don't know, it just felt kind of strange for the story. Like, the idea of people waking up on the side of the highway wearing the skin of victims that they've never met before, and, like, the whole hair getting tied around the tongue thing, like, it's just so creepy and weird and kind of unique. And then I also wanted to love this because of the Colorado atmosphere. You know, I think that was something that was done really well in this book, was it really felt like it took place, like, in the wintertime in Colorado. Like, I could really get a sense of that. The characters, I could not care less. I didn't like the writing style at all, and, like, the plot just was really not interesting. Like, it was so boring to me. I also feel like this cover is a little bit misleading because, like, there's not really, like, a werewolf story happening in this the way that you would think. So don't let the cover fool you. This is not a werewolf book. So that is truly unfortunate that the first book was a bit of a flop for me. So I'm hoping to have some better luck with the next thing that I read. Hello, good afternoon. It is actually the same day. It is still Sunday afternoon. After I ended up getting home from the coffee shop, I was just laying in my bed for a few hours, like watching YouTube videos and just kind of like having a chill day. And then I got the notification on my phone that my ebook hold at my library came through for Open Wide. And I've been so curious about this book for a while because I've been hearing so many people say that this is like the perfect weird girl book, you know, and I've just been really into the weird girl books lately. I mean, one of my recent favorites was Boring Asian Female. I also also loved A Good Person earlier this year, and then Big Swiss is like one of my favorites, Earthlings, to name a few of like the weird girl books that I've enjoyed. And I actually checked my Libby as well, and the audiobook was also available for my library, so I downloaded the audiobook, and I'm already 48% of the way through this. Like, I've just been absolutely flying through this book this afternoon because I was also doing some laundry and just like doing a few things around the house. And so far, this book has been absolutely ridiculous. Like, what am I even reading right now? So in this story, we're following this character named Olive, and she's in her 30s and she's single, and she kind of talks about how she's always struggled with intimacy. And she's also a radio host, which is really cool because it does end up playing a pretty big part in this story because she has a tendency to like record everything in her life, you know, because part of her job as a radio host is that she'll be like conducting these interviews all the time where she'll have to like record people, but it's gotten to the point where she's like recording very private moments in her life, and like the other people in her life don't know that she's recording specific moments. And this story is about how she ends up meeting this guy named Theo, who's a surgeon, and the story is really about how she's like starting to become obsessed with this guy named Theo, and she's like desperate to get closer to him, and about how she's like low-key recording a lot of their conversations and a lot of their intimate moments without him knowing about it. Oh my gosh, like when I tell you that this girl is so unhinged, but like there's something about reading from her perspective, it is so entertaining. It is kind of giving me the same feelings that I had while I was reading Big Swiss, because it's like, girl, what? Like I literally had a line in like the first chapter, maybe the first or the second chapter, where I underlined it and I put, girl, what? Like that's crazy. Just to give you an example of the kind of writing that exists in this book, she says, I wanted to enter the hole that was his mouth, to get bit, ground to a pulp. I wanted to spread myself over his tongue, then slide over it into the dark warmth of his throat. I wanted to wedge myself between his organs. This is the type of closeness that she's talking about, that she desperately craves with him. I also just feel like the writing in this book has been so good. Like one of the other quotes I really liked is when she said, his eyes were soft and boyish, giving the sense that he was not quite an adult, not yet capable of navigating the world on his own. I also do love how there's been a lot of commentary in this book about some of the weird like social norms that we have, like how she'll say it's so strange that like people get uncomfortable when you like ask them about things that they've posted on social media, even though they are posting it publicly. Like say as an example, like if a girl goes to like a party and she posts about it on her Instagram stories, and then she's like, the next day when I'm at work, I ask her how the party was, and she looks at me so weird, like, how did I know that? And she's saying how it's like so weird how people will like put things on social media and then be surprised when people know about their lives in real life. There's something really comedic though about the voice of this character in this book. Like she's absolutely unhinged and like borderline crazy, like there's no doubt about that, but there's something so comedic about her voice in this book, and it's so funny because she's like low-key obsessed with him in so many ways. Especially when it comes to his teeth, like he has this little gap between his front teeth, and she's like obsessed with the gap in his teeth. I just love how dramatic this bitch is, because like one of the quotes that I underlined is when she's like, when I said that I missed him, I meant that I craved with an intensity that bordered on pain. Like she's so fucking dramatic, and for what? Like it's so funny. You know, now that I'm thinking about it more, this book also kind of reminds me of that book called My Husband. It kind of has like a similar voice to that character as well. But I kind of love this because it's like as we're getting further and further into the story, like you're starting to realize like, oh my god, like he might be a little bit of a freak as well. So it might not be as one-sided as I originally thought, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm here for it. I feel like this is one of those books that's just so entertaining. Like it is just so easy to listen to, and it's not very long either. Like the audiobook is only 9 hours. I think the Kindle copy of this book that I have is only like 260 pages. My dad was so sweet earlier tonight. He ended up making potato soup for dinner, and that was so good. And then I felt so bad because afterwards he was trying to make beignets, because my dad has been obsessed with beignets recently. Like that's his latest dessert obsession, and so he was trying to make the beignets, and I feel so bad because he like burnt them all really badly. It was so devastating, but you know, at least he tried, you know, like A+ for effort. And then also tonight, me and my mom, we ended up starting the first 2 episodes of the X-Files, and I'm really glad that this is going to be the next show that we're watching, because those first 2 episodes were really good. Like I'm already really invested. I loved the like alien vibes of the X-Files. Like I always knew that if I ever tried to get into the X-Files, like I knew that this was going to be my kind of show, and I'm so glad to be getting into it. I feel like this is going to be the start of a journey. But anyway, I think I'm going to try and finish up the rest of this book tomorrow. I do have some filming that I would like to get done in the morning, and then I do work in the afternoon. So I'm hoping that I'll find some time tomorrow to finish the rest of this book, but I will keep you updated once I do. Hello, I wanted to check in with a quick update because this morning I just finished reading Open Wide, And like, dude, what the fuck? I don't even know how to begin to talk about this book. Like, what did I just read? You know, in terms of like weird girl books, I will say this one is one of the weirdest books that I've ever read, and I actually don't know how I feel about it. Like yesterday, while I was like on the way to work, I was eating in my car while I was listening to this, which I would not recommend because like, oh my God, this book was kind of gross. Like some of the descriptions, oh, I can't even really tell you like why it's so disgusting and like why it's so uncomfortable to read. But I do think that there was a lot of elements of this book that reminded me of the movie Together, that horror movie Together. So like maybe if you've seen that movie Together, then you'll understand like some of the weird visual things that are happening in this book. It reminded me a lot of that movie too, because I do feel like this book is trying to have commentary about like people that have like severe separation anxiety, or like people who become so obsessed with another person that they're like, I literally want to crawl under your skin. There were also some elements of this book that like the visuals got so gross, but then it was also kind of like hard to even imagine like what was going on. It was almost like slipping into the territory of like magical realism, where it's like, what is even happening right now? Like I can't even follow it. And I think I enjoyed this book because I liked the commentary that I think it was trying to have. And I think the main character was like so unhinged. Like some of the things that she would do and say, I was like, girl, what? It was also very like erotic and like sexual in a lot of ways. There definitely were some elements of this book that reminded me of Big Swiss, because I feel like Big Swiss is another one of those like weird books that also kind of feels like really sexual and like erotic at times. But I think I enjoyed Big Swiss quite a bit more than I did with this one. I mean, with this book, I just kept thinking like, oh my God, where's this going? How the freak is this book going to end? And then when the book did end, I was like, oh. Like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, I don't think it could have ended any other way. So I do think this book was well done. I think it was disgusting and gross and weird and kind of like unpredictable, but then also like a little bit predictable at the same time. Like I said, I have no idea how to describe this book because it was so bizarre to read this yesterday. Like, what? This was the kind of book where like when I was listening to it in my car and I like pulled up next to somebody else, I was like, oh my God, I hope they can't hear what I'm listening to. Because if anybody outside of my car could hear the things that I'm listening to, they'd probably be deeply concerned for me. I think I'm probably gonna end up rating this one around like a 3.5 star. I don't think I loved this one as much as I've enjoyed some other books that could be considered like weird girl books in the past, because the voice of this character at times, I could find her to be like a little bit annoying, but this was such an unforgettable read. Like I will truly never forget the feeling that I had while reading this book, and then also like some of these visuals I will never get out of my head. Hi, hello, how's it going? It has been such a long time since I last updated this vlog. It's been well over a week. I want to say it's been like 10 days because I have fallen into one of the biggest reading slumps that I've had in a long time. And there were so many times that I thought about just like scrapping this vlog entirely because it already wasn't going well. And it's not because I wasn't trying to read, because I was. I tried to read so many different things and I just kept getting like 50 pages in or like 70 pages in and just kind of feeling like so meh about everything that I was reading. And so I really couldn't tell if it was just like the books that I was picking up or if I was falling into a reading slump. Like, is there something wrong with me? And so for a while, I just wasn't really reading, and I was also just like so busy. June has been absolutely crazy with like training at the bookstore. It's not even that I'm working like a ton of hours with training. It's just that they have me working so frequently. Like I'm working a lot of days of the week. I mean, last Sunday I did end up working a 9-hour shift, which was crazy because I'm not used to standing on my feet like that all day anymore. And the bookstore where I work has a lot of like stairs, so I was doing stairs all day, and by the end of my 9-hour shift, like my feet were absolutely killing me. And so training at the bookstore has been a lot, but actually this Saturday is going to be my last day technically training, and then by Sunday I'm going to be considered, you know, like done with my training. And it's really cool because after the training is over, my schedule is going to change, so I'm not going to be working as frequently. I mean, I'll be working more hours, but I'll be working less days, if that makes sense, because the shifts are going to be longer, which is actually more ideal for me. All all of that to say is that June has been absolutely crazy, and I feel like because of that, I've just fallen into a bit of a reading slump, because when I'm not working in the bookstore, I'm just really tired, and it seems like these days the only thing that my brain wants to read is like supernatural fan fiction, and I think that's partially because I'm so sad since I finished watching Supernatural that it's like all I want to read is supernatural fan fiction. I don't know, it's been a weird week, and I decided to like take my own advice, because anytime that I start to fall into a reading slump, my main advice to people is always like, okay, well, you should either reread a favorite, or maybe you should read something small, like maybe read a novella or a manga or a graphic novel or something that's gonna help you like get through something quick. So I did end up reading the book Dead Weight, which this is a horror novella that I've kind of had my eyes on for a while. And I was gonna like update you about it in this vlog and talk about it, but like I really just didn't have too much to say about this one. And this is another book that I ended up giving around like 3 stars, like maybe 3.5 stars. I thought it was interesting and really entertaining, but I actually thought it was so short that I just wanted a little bit more from this. So I didn't end up mentioning it in this vlog because I really didn't have too much to say about it. But I'm updating you now because I have just now started reading this thriller called Pretty Dead Things by Kelsey Cox, which this is definitely one of my most anticipated thrillers of this year. This one's coming out in July, on July 7th. And I've been really excited to read this one because this is from the same author as Party of Liars. You know, this is one of my least favorite book covers of all time. Like, I can't stand this. I think it looks so ugly, no offense. But this is a thriller that I read last year that I gave 5 stars. Like, I loved this. I had the best time with it. And like I have previously mentioned, this book really reminded me a lot of like The Hunting Wives. It's like one of those like gossip small town in Texas kind of thrillers where you're following a pretty big cast of characters and it's all revolving around this girl's like 16th birthday party. And so far I've been reading Pretty Dead Things all morning and I'm now on chapter 31. I'm about 129 pages in. And so far this one is reminding me a lot of Party of Liars. It has a very similar vibe. This book is also taking place in a small town in Texas. It has that like small town gossip kind of a vibe. And we also do follow a pretty big cast of characters in this book. I did see on Goodreads that that's one of the biggest complaints with a lot of people in their reviews so far is that this book does have a massive cast of characters and it gets a little bit confusing at times, which I would agree with because we get the perspective of 4 different women in the small town. We have this young girl, Sarah Lynn, and she's going to be one of the girls who's like competing in this beauty pageant and like her mom takes the pageant very seriously because she wants her daughter to like continue on with her legacy. We also get the perspective of this woman named Kat, who is Olivia's mom, and Olivia is the friend of that girl, Sarah. And then we get the perspective of this woman named Ingrid, and she's going to be coming back to the town. And I guess her sister Izzy went missing back in the day, or maybe her sister was killed. It's not entirely clear to me. And then we follow this other character named Melanie, and she's a nurse, and she was also friends with Izzy back in the day, and she's Hannah's mom. So it's like we get the perspective of some of the teenage girls, and then we also get the perspective of some of the teenage girls' mothers. But then we also, on top of all of that, we do get this perspective that's like back in 2000, like in the year 2000 from this guy, Abel Sherman. And I'm not entirely sure what the point of getting his perspective is. And like every now and then now, we keep getting these chapters that are like flashbacks to the year 2000 and we're getting the perspective of like random characters. And I'm trying to keep it all straight in my head because there is a lot happening here. But for the most part, I am really liking this so far. I don't know what it is about the way that this author writes her thrillers. It just immediately sucks me in. Her characters are immediately kind of like messy. And I just like the way that she writes the friendships between these teenage girls and like the dynamics between the female characters are very interesting to me. I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but like sometimes the moments between the teenage girls when they're like getting ready for their pageants and shit and like the way they look at each other, I'm like, is this gonna be gay? Because it's kind of giving me gay vibes, like just a little bit with like some of the tension between the girls, especially this girl, Sarah, and her friend Olivia. She keeps talking about how like, oh my God, Olivia is just like so beautiful. And like, oh my God, like she's afraid that she's gonna like lose the pageant, I think, to her friend Olivia. So like maybe it could be jealousy, but I'm also sensing some tension between them. You know, I do have a tendency to like find the queer ship in everything ever. Like my mom was laughing at me when we started watching Dawson's Creek because immediately I was like, are we not supposed to be shipping Joey and Jen? Which are like the 2 girls on Dawson's Creek, because I was like, they have way more tension than they do with the boys. So like that really could just be me trying to find the queer ships in any story ever. You know, it's so funny because like I'm the type of person that like I would never really care about a beauty pageant. Like that is not something I ever have cared to participate in. And I think that entire culture can be like very toxic, you know, because I feel like it's a lot of, you know, beauty standards getting pushed on young girls. And I think the entire concept of like beauty pageants can be very toxic and like bad for young girls. But when I tell you, I do enjoy reading about it. And I do enjoy watching TV shows that are about beauty pageants too. Like, I feel like it's one of my guilty pleasures. There's just something about it. Like, I don't know, it's really interesting to me. And the way that it sometimes brings out this like cattiness in women towards each other, the way they try to like tear each other down so that they can get the crown. Like, I don't know, it's very interesting. I forgot to mention too that this book's first chapter was so interesting. It was kind of like a flash forward, and it was talking about how there was like this really bad storm on the night of the pageant. And it's written in this really graphic way that almost felt like horror to me, where it says this multi-feathered headpiece, once pristine white, is now splattered with red ribbons of blood. It says a large clump of brain matter, still warm, clings to the layers of an emerald-colored gown. It says from beyond the door comes the sounds of screaming young girls. The storm persists, battering the walls as wind continues to howl and scrape and claw, but the night is far from over. Like, is that not such a great first chapter? I was like, bitch, what? And then it's great because every chapter after that has been like 6 days before the pageant. So like, we know that some shit is gonna go down during this pageant, but we don't yet know what it is. And so most of this book has been like the flashbacks like leading up to the night of the pageant. And so I'm kind of excited to like see where this goes and to like see how dark it's gonna get, because that first chapter, like, that felt like horror to me. So yeah, I'm really excited to finally be reading a book that I'm enjoying. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. Like, June has been a struggle, man. I had all of these different plans to make all of these different reading vlogs in the month of June, and this is only the second vlog that I've been working on, and it's probably all that I'm gonna be able to do because June has just been so crazy. Anyway, I'm just gonna continue reading. I have less than an hour until I have to leave for work tonight, but I'm working a very short shift today. I'm only working 4 hours, so hopefully I can finish this book later tonight when I get home. Hello, good morning. It is now the next day, and I'm so excited to let you know that last night I did end up finishing reading Pretty Dead Things. I know, look at me, first book that I finished within a week. I just feel so accomplished only because I finished it. And unfortunately, I don't think I loved this one quite as much as I loved Party of Liars. I mean, I did end up enjoying this for the most part, but I think I'm gonna give this like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I just think I wanted a little bit more out of the second half of this book because I really thought that it was gonna get quite a bit darker, or that it was gonna lean into those like horror themes, which like maybe that's on me, like maybe I should not have been expecting that. But I think I was left feeling a little bit unsatisfied with like the second half of the story, and I do think the first half was a little bit stronger for me in terms of like keeping me invested in the story. I definitely understand what people mean when they're saying like there's way too many characters in this book, because it's not just the fact that we have like the teenage girls and then we have the mothers of the teenage girls, but I think it makes it a little bit confusing because we also do get flashbacks of the mothers when they were teenagers back in the day, and then it makes it confusing because at times, you know, when I'm only listening to this on audio, I'm like, oh my god, whose perspective am I reading from right now, and like what timeline am I even in? So I do think when you have that big of a cast of characters and multiple timelines going on, it does make things a little bit confusing at times while I'm reading. And then also by the time we got to like one of the big reveals, my first thought was like, who is that? And that's never a good feeling to have when I'm reading a thriller, and I think that's how you know your cast of characters is just a little bit too big, if like by the time we get to a reveal and I'm like, who the freak is that? But I still do want to give this one 3.5 stars because I really do like the way that the like toxic female friendships were explored in this book. That's something that I always tend to really enjoy, and because there's like the beauty pageant elements in this, I feel like some of it could get so toxic, and it was just really like entertaining to read. I also did like a lot of the different mother and daughter dynamics that were being explored in this book. I thought those were all really well done. I will say though, with the characters in this book, I do have mixed feelings about the different characters because there were some characters that felt so distinctive and that had a very distinct voice, but then there were some characters that like they reminded me so much of each other that it was really hard to tell them apart on the audiobook and like separate them in my head. But overall, this book was really entertaining. Like, I will say that this book is so readable because the chapters are very short, especially towards the end of the book. Like, there were so many chapters that were only 1 page long, so it's really easy to like tear through the pages of this book. And I mean, it was easy for me to finish it all within 1 day while I've been in a reading slump, mind you, so I feel like that's a high enough praise for this book as it is. So overall, I think I would still recommend this book if you're looking for something that's going to be fast-paced, something that's going to involve like female friendships and beauty pageants in Texas. Like, it definitely had the atmosphere. It was a fun time for the most part. Sorry that my room kind of looks like a mess. I'm currently washing my bed sheets right now. Also, for anybody wondering, yesterday ended up being such a great day at work. Oh my gosh. I am really starting to bond with the other girls that I've been training with in the bookstore, and it's just so nice. Like, yesterday we just had such an amazing shift. gift, and I'm getting to know so many incredible things about this bookstore. I'm almost done with my training at this point. Like, my last day of training is actually going to be tomorrow. And after we get put into our regular schedules, like, I don't know how often I'm going to see these people that I've been training with. So I am kind of curious to see how the job is going to feel different once I am done with training officially. But yeah, things have been going so well at the bookstore. Like, I am just so happy and so elated. And like, this is exactly the kind of balance that I was looking for in my life. So like, things have been going wonderful. But anyway, it is a Friday morning, and I think today my only plan is that I want to read Hot Girl Murder Club by Ashley Winstead. I have this ARC copy in my hand, and then the publisher was also so kind enough to send over the audiobook. So I think I'm going to start listening to that this morning. I think I also decided that I really want to go out to Value Village because I've been loving doing some thrifting recently. For the summertime, I don't really have a lot of options, and like, it does get really toasty in the bookstore. So I was like, okay, I need to go and like find some other options for me for like shirts that I can wear at work. So I think I'm going to go to Value Village and do that. And I might also swing by Trader Joe's because I want to pick up something that I can eat for my lunches tomorrow and Sunday. So I think we're going to go out and do that, and I'm going to get started on this one on audio, and I will keep you posted with my thoughts. Love the look of this one. Like, I don't have any rain jackets that look this nice. Okay, hi. It's now like 3:30 in the afternoon. I just got back home from doing all of the things. I went to Value Village and I got a cute little haul that I just showed you. And then I also ended up going to Trader Joe's and I picked up a few different things. But I am here with an unfortunate update because Hot Girl Murder Club is not going very well. I got 41% of the way through this audiobook. I'm about 130 pages in and I just hit chapter 19. And I think I'm gonna have to DNF this book because I cannot push myself through this right now. I'm just really not liking this, and I'm so upset about it because Ashley Winstead has been so hit or miss for me as an author. I loved In My Dreams I Hold a Knife so much. Like, that was an easy 5-star for me, but I feel like every single book that I've tried to read from Ashley Winstead since that book has been a disappointment. And like, I hate to say this, but I feel like Ashley Winstead might be like the next Ruth Ware for me, where like, she had a book that I absolutely loved. Like, for Ruth Ware, it was The Turn of the Key, and for Ashley Winstead, it was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. And then like, I keep picking up every single new release hoping that it's going to give me the same feeling, and then I'm just left feeling disappointed. And I don't know what's been going on with like some of these thrillers in 2026, but like, this is just so boring. You know, I really thought the idea of a Hot Girl Murder Club, like, I thought this was going to be really fun and really juicy, especially because the freaking blurb on the front from May Cobb says one of the most addictive, juiciest thrillers I've ever read. Like, I'm sorry, where's the addictiveness and where is the juice? Because I don't see any. I actually feel like this book is reading a lot more like a literary thriller at the moment. Like, it's just not very interesting. It's not really pulling me in. I think I'm also struggling with this because there is a really big cast of characters, and it is almost kind of confusing too. Like, you have to keep track of who's who because at the start of every chapter, it won't say the character's name. It'll just say the model. It'll say the detective, the journalist, and you just have to like remember who's who. And we're also jumping back and forth between timelines as well. Much like the other book that I just read, we have a present day timeline and then we have a timeline that's like 20 years ago. You know, I was a little bit nervous to read this because there is a detective point of view in this book, and I do often talk about how like, I don't really like reading from a detective's point of view because I find that to be so incredibly dull and boring. But I thought, you know, because this one would have like multiple point of views and like a lot of things happening, that I wouldn't mind as much, because typically in a thriller, I don't like when I'm reading only from a detective's point of view, but I don't mind it as much if we have like a mix of different point of views and there's like a lot of different things happening. But in this particular case, I'm finding every single perspective to be very dull. It's like, I get what Ashley Winstead is trying to do and what she's trying to say about this industry, you know, because we're following a lot of characters who are actresses and who are like in the movie business. And we do hear a lot about these different women and like the awful way that they've been treated, and like how Hollywood just tries to like cover things up and like nothing gets brought to the light. And like, yes, there is a lot of very, you know, like timely commentary and like some stuff that feels very relevant to the times that we're living in right now. But I just feel so disconnected from everything that's happening in this book. Like, I don't know why the writing is just really, really not pulling me in. I actually feel exactly the same about this as how I was feeling about the Future Saints by Ashley Winstead, which is another book that I read from her. I'm pretty sure I read that one earlier this year. And I feel like there's actually a lot of similarities between these two stories, especially like the whole sister dynamic in this book is reminding me so much of the Future Saints. It almost does feel like this book reminds me so much of the Future Saints that it's like this one feels like a thriller version of that one, because the Future Saints is a little bit more of like a literary kind of like heartfelt drama kind of a story, whereas this one is supposed to be more of a thriller. And like the idea of a hot girl murder club, like that does sound really cool in theory, but I'm actually just finding it to be kind of cheesy and like kind of cringy. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's coming across the way that it's meant to be coming across in this. I have seen people too on Goodreads that rated this book low. A lot of people are saying it gets more confusing the more that you go on because it just keeps introducing more characters. And like, as I was flipping through the rest of this book, I keep seeing like different titles, because so far we've had the detective, the model, the journalist, and like all these, but I'm flipping through and I can see even more job titles coming up. And I'm like, dude, so I am really sad about this because I desperately want to love another Ashley Winstead book so bad. That's why I keep picking up all of her stuff. So I hate to end the vlog here, but I think I'm gonna have to call it quits for this video for now. I feel like I'm definitely in a reading slump and I'm gonna have to do something about this because Summerween is coming up and I need to dig myself out of this slump real quick. I mean, it's not like I haven't been reading anything that I've been enjoying, because I'm actually currently reading The Summer Girlfriend and I'm a little bit more than 50% of the way through this one. I'm on page 206 and I'm really loving this one so far. Like, this feels like it could be a 4-star or maybe even a 5-star romance. And this is actually from the same author as The Neighbor Favor. And this was another romance that I read from Christina Forrest that I really loved. I think I gave this one like 4.5 stars. And something that I am really loving about The Summer Girlfriend is that this main character, Noelle, she actually does work in a bookstore at the start of this book, which I thought was really cool because now I'm working in a bookstore too. So we had that in common. And I'm loving that she's like working in a bookstore at the start of this book and then she gets let go from her job because they're trying to downsize, which, like, oh my God, what a nightmare. And then she ends up meeting this guy named Jeremiah in the bookstore. And when he finds out that she's going to be losing her job, he offers her a job to be his fake girlfriend for a while. So there is a little bit of like a fake dating situation happening in this book that I'm just really loving. The writing is just so good. I just love the way that Christina Forrest writes her romance books. So it's not like my reading has been going like absolutely terrible, but I also just have still been in such a reading slump. So hopefully I can figure my way out of this reading slump before the end of June. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna do some rereading. Any advice would be appreciated, but I would love to know how you feel about any of the books that I've read in this video, or if you have any plans to read any of the books that I read in this video. Do let me know your thoughts. And thank you so much for watching as always. I'm so sorry this vlog was such a hot mess. I know it's not up to my usual standard, but like June has just been such a crazy busy month. So hopefully I can turn things around in July and we can get back to our regularly scheduled vlogs. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye.